Hello again, everybody. And with all due respect to the great Don Morocco, we've got the magnificent Michael Maraldo here on Freeform Wednesday, an absolute darling of the Northeast indie scene of the 1990s and the international newsstand pro wrestling magazines of the time, and making gifted WWF and WCW superstars of the time look even better on television. This is the esteemed Mr. Moraldo. Mr. McMahon need not take a back seat, but the spotlight is on Mr. Moraldo right now, and rightfully so. Welcome to the show. What's going on, sir? How are you?
Yeah, guys, quite the intro. I'm doing well, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for taking the time. Thank you so much for being here with us. And my first question to you, as I always ask all of my guests, you were, of course, a wrestling fan growing up, and you said that your interest in pro wrestling began like many others. A friend or family member, sibling got you interested, even inadvertently. And it was a televised tag team match with Hulk Hogan and
Wow,
Hillbilly Jim,
you did some research.
Big
Whoa.
John Studd and King Kong Bundy. And that did the trick. Was it because these four characters were pretty well larger than life?
You know what? They were all larger than life back then. Like everybody, Junkyard Dog, or like you said, Don Morocco, or Mr. Wonderful. None of them looked like your baker. None of them looked like your banker. None of them looked like your mailman. They were all larger than life. But I don't know what it was. It was the crowd and the big guys and the excitement and the violence. It was just like a perfect storm of entertainment for me back then. It was 1986. So you figure I was in sixth grade, and I was hooked, hooked.
In addition to the great Canadian legend, second generation icon Iron Mike Sharp, New Jersey based independent wrestler Bobby Piper was instrumental in your training. Before we talk extensively about your career, can you help uh, full, uh, fill us in in your career path other than Mr. Piper of other the other Mr. Piper?
Yeah, so I joined up Iron Mike Sharp's wrestling school in Bricktown, New Jersey, in 1992. I was a senior in high school. Uh, Did I lose you? You there,
No,
Dave?
I just decided to give you the spotlight, so it's not
Oh,
like I'm
okay. Got
I'm
it.
here.
Got
I'm
it.
here.
Okay.
It's just because I decided to give you the solo layout.
Got it. So, in '92, I was a senior in high school. I joined up the Iron Mike Sharp's wrestling school, and Mike's school, it wasn't a traditional like class. Like you didn't like today we're going to learn lockups. Today we're going to learn promos. It was just you gave me your 2,500 bucks, and you kind of figured it out on your own. And it was myself and this guy Mike Tarris, who I'm still close with to this day, and a gentleman by the name of Bobby Piper. He had a little more experience than Mike and myself, and he would just get in the ring with us, and he would teach us all the basics, like everything I learned as far as the fundamentals and my early on training came from working out with Bobby Piper.
Nice, nice. And our viewers may not be extensively familiar with independent wrestling organizations such as ECWA, ISPW, and NWA New Jersey, nor with promoters like Jim Kettner and Dennis Corluzzo. Can you help fill in the blanks for our viewers about who these gentlemen are?
Sure, indie wrestling back in the '90s, you didn't have like today. If I on a Saturday, if I want to watch wrestling, there's going to be 5 shows within a 60-mile radius today. Back then, it wasn't so much, and promoters ran certain areas. Like uh, Dennis Corluzzo was a member of the NWA board, and he ran basically southern New Jersey. Tommy Fiero was ISPW. He ran in northern Jersey, and he's still running to this day. And he also owns the Wrestling Collector Store in Stockholm, New Jersey. So If anyone needs your wrestling collectibles, make sure you go there. Jim Kettner ran the ECWA. Uh, Jim ran the same building. So like every month you went back to that building in front of the same people. Dennis and Tommy just ran all over the state wherever they could run a show. And Jim ran in Delaware, and he was the ECWA, and he started the Super 8 tournaments. And he had quite a following. Like the same people showed up every month to his shows, and it's it's got its it's got its advantages and disadvantages running the same building every month. But one of them is the people who do come, they know who you are. It's not like independent wrestling. When Dennis ran a show or Tommy ran a show, a lot of these people you're performing in front of for the first time, so you have to quote unquote get yourself over every single time, as opposed to going to the same people every month. You're already over. They already know you. So that's who those three guys were.
And did you feel the pinch in the early 1990s when your career was picking up steam, but the last of the territories like Portland Wrestling and Florida Championship Wrestling were vanishing, all except Memphis and perhaps upstarts like Global Wrestling Federation in Dallas and Herb Abrams' UWF?
Yeah, I think Herb was a little before my time. Smoky Mountain, I did Smoky Mountain TV for Jim Cornette back in the early 90s. But yeah, the territories were gone. It was really just the indies. It was like the WWF and WCW where you had to be a giant, which I wasn't, or it was basically just try and get booked on the one indie show that'd be in your area a month. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't like it is nowadays where guys can work 3 times a weekend and not really leave their general 60-mile radius. It was a lot less shows back in the day.
What was Jim Cornette like to work with? Because I mean, when you hear about Jim Cornette, you hear so many different stories about him.
Jim Cornette is the greatest guy in pro wrestling. I always say this. I always say the same thing. If you've heard me on a podcast, I've said this the exact same way every time. If you show up to a show and you look the part and you act the part and you are a professional and you show respect for the people who paved the way, Jim Cornette will have all the time in the world for you. Love Jim Cornette. He would always watch my matches. When he was in the area working for Dennis, he would work with myself and my old partner, Crowbar Devin Storm, all the time. Uh, can't say enough good things about Jim Cornette.
No, he's a great man. He's a good man who I'd love to interview one day, but we shall see.
Hmm.
What can you tell us about an unsung hero of independent wrestling like Bob Raskin, who revived Pedro Martinez's infamous National Wrestling Federation in 1986, and it kept going for 8 years and ran a Midwest version of the USWA?
I never heard of Bob Raskin. Never met him. Not that I know of.
Okay. And from where did the heel Ace Darling persona come and develop through on national television? You essentially worked as babyface enhancement talent Mike Maraldo for the WWF.
Yeah, well, so I broke it in '92, and I broke it in February, and that July I go to a live event, a house show in my area, and Tony Gurria was there. And I said to Tony Gurria, I said, I'm a member of Mike Sharp's wrestling school. If you need job guys, I'd love to do that. So I did that from about 18 to 22. And if you were a heel in the early '90s, I wrestled you. Uh, Bastion Booger, Adam Bomb, the Quebecers, Shawn Michaels, Diesel, Razor, Owen, IRS, Jeff Jarrett, Tatanka, Henry Godwin, Bam Bam Bigelow, Quang, Heavenly Bodies, Head Shrinkers. I wrestled everybody, and you get great experience doing that. My friend made up the name Ace Darling, and I thought it was the worst name ever. I'm like, I'll just use this for 6 months, and it'll change eventually, and it never did, and I'm stuck with it.
And So after you spill the beans about Mike Sharp's wrestling school to the WWF, road agents Tony Gurria, road agent Tony Gurria, Sharp for whatever reason not wanting the word to spread there, and you and other students begin to work enhancement matches in the WWF. Do you envision any dream opponents to work with on TV, or you're just so thrilled to be there it didn't really matter who specifically you'd be working with?
Oh, well, the first and foremost, you want to work with guys that aren't going to hurt you, because you did get hurt being an enhancement guy sometimes. I mean, Shawn Michaels was my dream, and I got to wrestle him. I had a bucket list when I broke in. I want to wrestle Shawn, I did. I want to wrestle Marty, I did. I want to wrestle Tito, I did. I want to wrestle Macho Man, I didn't, and Ricky Steamboat, and I didn't. But yeah, just guys who'll give you a little bit. Like Jeff Jarrett would give you a little, or IRS would give you a little. But it's like sometimes you get Jeff Jarrett, and sometimes you get Ludwig Borga. I mean, I had no problem. He took totally good care of me in there, but it's not a competitive match with Ludwig Borga.
Mm. And what was it like working with Ludwig Borga? I know you've probably told the story many times.
He says to me, this is how he talked over the match. He says to me, "Tonight, if you F up, I F you up." And he left the locker room. And I was like, I'm dead. I was like 20 years old. Because it's not like wrestling. I don't know if you watched back in the day, but there were squash matches. You were there to enhance the superstar. There was no 50-50. There was no 20-minute matches. It was a 4-minute squash match, and you did whatever you could to make your opponent look good, and you were at their mercy. I mean, you really were. They would tell you what you're doing that night, and you'd say yes, sir, and you would be happy to do it. I was 18 years old, 19, 20, 21, getting to wrestle 3 days in a row for the WWF. I was couldn't have been happier.
And I know Ludwig Borga, he's no longer, I know Tony Halame is no longer with us, but did anyone in the back or any of the talent talk about their disdain of him, or his dirty little secret that he had tattooed on his calf, or that wasn't
Nope.
even talked about at all, or wasn't even part of the equation?
Not with me. They might have amongst themselves, but there was a distinct line. There was like, you were either a contract guy on the road with them, or you were an extra. WCW, it was more like, hey, we're all a bunch of wrestlers. Even top guys, they were all a bunch of wrestlers. We went out afterwards, we'd go hang out with some of the guys, all be in the same room. But WWF was a little more like, okay, you're over here and we're over here type of atmosphere.
Okay. You seem to have great experiences with the Click, despite some of the negative stories about Scott Hall, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, and even Sean Waltman told by others. Could you elaborate what they were like when you were with the WWF?
Sure. Well, Shawn and I got to wrestle on TV, and he was, professionally Shawn Michaels. What can you say that hasn't been said about his in ring? I remember one time I was in the locker room, and sometimes it was like a long hallway, and you just pick a door, and you go in there and you put your stuff down. And I walked in. I don't know who I was with, but I was with a couple other enhancement guys, and it was just Shawn Michaels. Now, this wasn't the showstopper main event Shawn Michaels. This was like the IC champ Shawn Michaels, but he was still one of the top, going towards the top guys. So it was just him there all by himself. So I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Shawn goes, "Come on in, guys." He sat us down, and we asked him questions for about 45 minutes, and he answered every single one of them and could not have been cooler. Like, he went out of his way to just give us a wrestling lesson. He said stuff like, my motto is, if there's 5 people here or 50,000 people, I'm going to give them the same show so they want to come back the next time and tell their friends. Like, he was really cool. Scott Hall, same thing. Whether it was WWF or WCW, I never saw the jerk Scott Hall. I never saw, and I got to wrestle him a few times. Never saw Never saw the jerk Scott Hall ever. He was always good to me. Always like he would talk to you too. Like he'd sit down and say, "So tell me about your day." Talk to you like a person. Kevin Nash, I love to death. I wrestled him 4 times. I took a bump from him one time that I don't if you can get it's on Raw. I literally I I told him I said I'm gonna come over to you. He said I said grab me and all you have to do, Kevin, is this. I go I'm gonna take a flip over the top rope backwards, and I grabbed the rope at the end to protect myself so I don't land on my head. But it's the most devastating bump you'll ever see. And he's like, huh? I'm like, just trust me. I go, I'm gonna make you look like $1,000,000. And the bump it was on all his highlight videos forever. Fast forward 30 years, I see him at a convention a couple of months ago, a couple years ago. My friend Tommy was running, and I haven't seen him. I wrestled him. I've wrestled him a few times after that, and I've seen him a few times after that. But like a 30-year stretch, and I look nothing like I did, when I was a teenager. So I go up to him like, Kevin, and I don't know if you remember me. He goes, you're the guy who told me to take you by the throat and choke slam me over the top rope. And I go, no, I told you to choke slam me over the top rope backwards. And he started laughing. How'd you remember that? He goes, it's not every day someone is willing to do that for you. Like he's just super cool. And one time in WCW, myself and Crowbar were in the airport, and we were too young to even rent the car. And Kevin's like, you're riding with me, boys. And he paid for this is before Uber. He paid for the taxi and dropped us off at our hotel. So yeah, great guys. Sean Waltman and could be the most underrated wrestler of all time. I mean, what a talent! What an unbelievable talent Sean Waltman was. And again, I never saw the jerk Sean Waltman. I've never seen the jerk on any of these guys. They're all just. And then again, I wasn't on the road with them. I was in competition to them. I was there to make them look good. I was there to enhance their career. So I wasn't around most of these guys long enough to get in their crawl or to be a target or anything. So I have nothing bad to say about any of them.
I don't have anything bad to say about any of them either. I mean, I've met Kevin Nash. It was very short and brief, and he's a true gentleman. He's a true gentleman, and sadly, never got to meet Scott Hall. Hopefully, one day I'll get to meet both Shawn Michaels and Sean Waltman, respectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and staples of my childhood and staples of my adolescence for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
and I know we talked about Jim Cornette a little bit, and I want to center around a little bit back to Jim Cornette. Did you first meet Jim in the WWF, or did you know Jim prior to working with the WWF?
My second TV I ever did. So in '92, I did two TVs, but I worked once. I worked with Skinner, Steve Kern, the greatest pro of all time. To this day, I love Steve Kern, and you can't say a bad word about that man in front of me because he took care of me. I was 18 years old, 3 months in, greener than grass, and what a pro. Love Steve Kern. But then fast forward a year later is when I really started doing TV, and that first TV back was the Heavenly Bodies' first TV. It was summer '93, and I was slated to work with them in their debut match. Actually, I told Tom Pritchard this when I was interviewing him. And he had no idea, but they switched it. They put someone else with the Heavenly Bodies and put me with Bash and Booger. But excuse me, I got to wrestle the Bodies later on when I wrestled there. But that's where I first met Jim at that first TV.
Nice. And your friend Chris Devonstorm, you were working with Chris Devonstorm Ford in Smoky Mountain Wrestling as well, if I'm not mistaken, for a couple of matches.
No, we did WCW TV. We did the Indies for 8 years together. We did WCW TV, but he and I never worked for Smoky Mountain together. I went up there. I drove. Do you remember who Boo Bradley was?
Yes, Balls Mahoney.
Correct. So I drove because Balls John was from where I'm from in Jersey, and he needed a ride to Kentucky. He's like, Jim Cornette said he loves you. He says, come on up to TV. So I went up with Balls Mahoney. Let's see if you know this. And a young AC Connor. You know who that is?
Refresh my memory, please.
He became D'Lo Brown. So
Oh,
three of us
yes.
rode up from New Jersey to Kentucky, and my car kept overheating. Me and D'Lo, and so eventually Balls met up with Chris Candido, and they went in their car because my car was having trouble, and it was just me and D'Lo, and me and D'Lo legit slid off a mountain and almost fell off plummeted to our death. But we just happened to end up in a bank and survived. But yeah, that was my experience driving the Smoky Mountain. They call them
I never.
Smoky Mountain Wrestling because there's Smoky Mountains. There's wet, steamy mountains, and we almost went off the side of one of them. True story.
Whoa. Uh, how friendly were you with guys like? Well, we talked about the head shrinkers briefly. Rick and Robbie Steiner, Chris Chavis, Tatanka, Savio Vega, who you mentioned at the time, wrestled as Quang, Mark Canterbury, Henry Godwin, Bam Bam Bigelow in the locker room, to yourself and maybe some of Mike Sharp's other students as well. What were those guys like?
Everyone was a pro. Everyone was professional. Everyone after a while they all starting to get to know you. Now when I see them at conventions, like I see Tatanka, it's hey, you remember me? We used to wrestle. Oh, of course. It's like they all appreciate what you did for them. Savio Vega, that guy? You don't realize how good that man is until you're in the ring with him. I remember one time we're in the locker room and Kevin Nash asked him. He was Quang at the time. He said, "How flexible are you?" Kevin Nash stands up, and Kevin Nash is legit 7 feet tall. Savio Vega, I love telling this story in front of him. I put him over so much. Savio Vega takes his foot and extends it and holds it on Kevin Nash's chin and just stands there on one leg and holds it there. I'm just an unbelievable athlete. Great person, too. Bam Bam, always cool, man. I got to wrestle Bam Bam, just good guys. Mark Canterbury. Henry Godwin? Oh, I love Henry Godwin.
Yes.
He came on my podcast. Great guy. Yeah, everyone's cool. I have no like. Everyone comes on these things and like, oh, I didn't make it because of this or this guy was a jerk. I don't have bad thing. I mean, if someone's a jerk to me, I'll call him a jerk. But no, they were all pretty cool. Everyone. I mostly had. I count on one hand the amount of people I met in wrestling that I didn't like. You know what I mean? Like, I've had mostly good experiences and met mostly good people.
Mm-hmm. I had the honor of meeting Mark and Dennis at. I don't know if any of your guests or prior guests have discussed the wrestling convention that we have here in Montreal called Slam Fest, which was a big success last September, and there will be a second one coming in October of this year. So I had the honor and privilege to meet Mark and Dennis, who were guests there, and they had a really fun they had a real fun dinner the night before. So Mark and Dennis, as well as Charles Wright, the Godfather, Papa Shango, were also there, and they were telling all kinds of stories. And the drive, I wasn't in the car, but the drive back was hilarious. A friend of mine was driving them back to their hotel, and Mark and Dennis are sitting in the back seat, and they're poking and prodding the guy that's driving him back is one of the promoters, and they just poked and prodded him, and they were just driving him completely and utterly insane. Like, am I bothering you yet? Am I bothering you yet? Meanwhile, in the passenger in the front in the passenger seat, Charles Wright is sitting in the passenger seat, and as the car is in motion, he opens the passenger door to spit out tobacco. And he's just driving the promoter absolutely insane.
Yeah, good guys. I like them. I like all three of them. Nice guys.
Yeah, they're great guys. It's just a little funny sidebar or a little funny anecdote that I just thought I'd throw out there. I'm sure it'll be fond memories to talk about time and time again. I want to talk to you a bit about Matt Bourne. And, over the years, Matt Bourne has only become more iconic since he passed, and being the subject of a Dark Side of the Ring episode. Granted, not always for positive reasons outside the ring, but he was undeniably great in the ring. You spent a lot of personal time with him. And when he was in New Jersey frequently, can you talk about getting to know him?
You really did your research. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. Wow. Um, Matt. Summer of 2010 is when Matt moved in with his girlfriend in Freehold, which was the town I grew up in, but I lived in the next town over. And I was dating my wife. It was my wife now at the time. We were just dating at the time, and Matt would come over all the time. He'd come over for barbecues. Um, yeah, he would come over all the time. I must have saw him more than anybody in a 6 month period. And I wrestled him when he was Doink the Clown for the WWF, and he knocked me out. He went. He made it look. It looked like it was a slap, but he actually punched me behind the ear. I was out for like 3 seconds. Um, Matt, I always say this about Matt too. Matt was a really, really nice person that made really, really bad decisions. You reap what you sow in this world. You really do. You reap what you sow, and he just made a lot of bad decisions. It's like when you looked at him, you could tell there was a good person there, but there was also like he was carrying baggage. Like you just knew. Like I always say, Matt was a good person, but a sad person. He really was. The night, the infamous Matt Bourne Jim Duggan fight. You want to fight? You want to work? You want to shoot? So I'm at a restaurant with my wife, my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, and our neighbors. And my phone rings. It's Matt. He's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm at so and so restaurant." "I'm coming over. I almost beat up Jim Duggan tonight." So he walks into the restaurant. He's got still like he didn't like wash his face, but he must have wiped it because there's like white behind his ear. His hair was green, and I'm like, "Dude, what happened?" He's like, "Oh, I had old heat with Jim Duggan, and we almost went at it tonight." And then you see the video, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, they really did almost go at it." Um, oh gosh, we could do a whole podcast on Matt Bourne. Um, just a just a sad, one of those sad stories in wrestling. It really was. It really was. I think Matt grew up in wrestling and never had to grow up. Always was not privileged as far as like he came from money privilege, but he was privileged as far as like, oh, he's a wrestler. Oh, he's a wrestler's son. You know what I mean? Like I think he got away with more than like you and I would have growing up. Oh, he got in trouble at school. He's Tony Bourne's son. Yeah, we'll give a pass. I think that's how Matt lived most of his life. And then you blink and you're 50 something years old with drug problems and divorces, and your kids are in other states, and it catches up to you. So yeah, Matt was a sad story, and I miss Matt because like legit, like Matt and I were friends. Like he confided in me, and I talked to him, and like we were friends. But I always call. I'll end this on a fun note because I don't. We're getting kind of sad, but I always called Matt Bourne my indoor friend. I'm teaching everybody a new term. He's an indoor friend. He can come over to my house. He can go swimming in my pool. He can have dinner. I'll make him dinner, a barbecue, whatever. But I wouldn't go out with Matt. Like I never say, "Hey Matt, let's go to the bar tonight." "Hey Matt, we're all going." He did meet me at the restaurant for the night of the Jim Duggan, but like that wasn't like a regular thing. Like, I wouldn't go out with Matt because I don't want to get arrested. I don't want to get in a fight. I don't want to have any drama. And it all seemed to follow Matt. So indoor friend, not an outdoor friend. Matt Bourne.
uh, how did you feel about picking up so much buzz and steam in the newsstand wrestling magazines in the first half of the 1990s, since mostly tape traders and Northeast independent wrestling fans knew you at the point beyond your role as enhancement talent in the WWF?
It was huge back then. It was huge, and I was fortunate enough. I went to my buddy Tommy's store this weekend, and I didn't grab any of these. And like like legit every magazine from like the 90s. Let's see if I would open it and I was in it. I was fortunate enough that Bill Apter and there was a photographer, an employee at PWI, Brandy. They were both very good to myself and Crowbar, and they gave us the exposure that back then I can't find the page, whatever. But I'm in it, I promise. But yeah, I was every month I was in because there was a lot back then. There was like Inside Wrestling, PWI, and The Wrestler, and all these like other publications. And for some reason, I ran into Matt Hardy a couple months ago. He's like, "Oh man, I got so jealous of you guys back in the day because you would get all the magazine coverage if we wouldn't." And he goes, "But then I realized you guys were just in the Northeast." I go, "Oh, so it's not because I was talented." We both started laughing. But anyway, but it's true that we were really in every magazine. It was, and you didn't have the internet. You didn't have. You just read about people back then. You know, like everyone knew your name, but a lot of them never saw you wrestle. But being in the magazines was huge, huge back then.
And we talked a little bit about Ludwig Borga earlier on, and you did make him look really good on television. And but in the end, after the match was over, was he appreciative since he didn't,
Yeah.
since he hadn't really feuded much with Lex Luger or Tatanka as of yet, despite his vignettes putting down the USA like most foreign villains do.
Oh yeah. He told me actually he told me I was the best guy he ever worked with on TV. I took this. He gave me a clothesline. I took this big spin bump for him. Yeah, he was great. Everyone usually the guys thanked you. Yeah, I can't think of too many people that didn't.
And did you get to know up and comer New York born and bred Chris Canyon around this time,
Oh
who
yeah.
was starting to turn some heads, even his on air enhancement talent for his rather innovative in ring style?
Yeah, I knew Chris very well. Actually, he and I did a Bob Backlund when he was doing the crazy. He got unhinged, Mr. Backlund. He had the chicken wing on enhancement guy, and they had me and Chris do a run in to get the Bob off the jobber, and then Bob grabs me in it. You know, Bob's a strong man. Woo. But yeah, I knew Chris. Chris is a great guy. I saw him in WCW, and yeah, it's a shame. It's another like Matt Bourne, one of the sad stories from wrestling that you wish ended up a different way.
And Jacques Rougeau and PCO, Pierre Carl Rolev, the Quebecers tag team, are from here and around the Montreal area, and enjoy pretty much elevated status in terms of perception in these parts as a result. Uh, Pierre is still impressively going at a top level, of course. Your experience or experiences in televised matches with them in 1993 were anything but enjoyable for you, correct?
Okay, I'll say this: I have nothing but respect for Jacques Rougeau. Nothing but respect, and for Pierre as well. But Jacques is just the ultimate pro as far as pro wrestling. You know, I mean, there's nothing the man didn't do and didn't do well and didn't get over. Love Jacques Rougeau. That being said, that finish they gave you was rough, and Pierre slapped me so hard in my ear that he had to have broken my eardrum. And then Pierre landed on me with that finish really, really hard. It was probably, let's say I've had 1,000 matches. It was the hardest bump I ever had to take. Was that finish from them? He killed me with it. Killed me with it. But that being said, I think Jacques Rougeau is just a dynamite guy, and he came on my podcast, but that
Mm-hmm.
finish was rough. Finish was tough. Finish was tough. And I'm not the only one to say that. It was a tough finish to take.
And are you at all surprised with the success that Pierre Carl Ouellet, PCO, has had as of late in more recent years?
I don't know
If you've
why he'd
been
want to.
following his career?
Yeah, I mean, good for him, but I don't know why he'd want to do it. I just, when you get to a certain age, like you could, you could blow a knee out doing anything these days. Imagine taking one of those crazy bumps. It's like my buddy Crowbar. One of my best friends, Crowbar, oldest friends. He still wrestles like he's 18 years old. Like I would just be scared at this age. Like I watch matches now, or I watch stuff that I did. I'm like, I used to do that. Like it's just crazy when you think of like it hurts just getting out of bed in the morning. That when I see a move where, I don't know. It's just I have a different perspective on it now than I did then. I'm 51. I just don't know why he'd want to take those risks at his age because he just don't bounce back as easily. But if he's doing it and he's enjoying it, he's loving his life, good for him. Do it till the wheels fall off. What can I tell you? But I just don't understand. I wouldn't take those bumps at that age.
Since you wrestled with Owen Hart, do you have any did you ever get to have any in-depth conversations with one Owen Hart when you
No,
worked with him in the WWF?
nope. Just talked over our match. It was always a hello. But no, I never really got to know Owen. I never did much with him. I was there. I went back and wrestled, for the light heavyweight division in the '90s, and he was there. It was just always hello. How are you? But no, never had any interaction with Owen.
Okay, and he never ribbed you at all either.
No, no, he didn't.
Were you there at the time, or did you hear about the time that he? It was the night of the In Your House. It was December 1995, and that was
With the
when Mark Canterbury
animals,
and
yeah, yeah,
Triple
yeah,
H had the
yeah, the
hog pen, or
animals,
Hunter Hearst
yeah,
Helmsley had the hog pen match,
right,
and Owen was at the arena when the guy that was bringing the pigs in
right,
asked where to put them, and he told them to send them into Vince McMahon's office.
right.
Were
Yeah,
you there
I
when that
heard.
happened, or did you hear
No,
about that story?
no, I was never at a pay per view. Of course, yeah, that's a legendary story, but no, I wasn't there.
Can only
That's funny.
imagine what it was like trying. I can only imagine what it would have been like trying to get Vince McMahon trying to get some livestock out of his office.
Right, right.
And you got to work with or alongside ECW original Raven Scott Levy, and when he was manager Johnny Polo in the WWF. What was he like to wrestle on the independent scene, and how well did you wind up knowing him?
Raven was when he was Johnny Polo. He was very good to me because I wrestled Adam Bomb. That's me against Adam Bomb, and I took some crazy bumps for him. And ever since then, anytime I'd work with somebody, he was walking by, he'd say, "This kid's a bump wizard." So he would take care of me, and he would just put the word in. You need that sometimes because most of the job guys stunk, and just so guys knew you're gonna do well in there. Um, and then I'm from Jersey, so the ECW shows. He would do the indies all the time, so I would see Raven all the time. He'd always give you advice. We went out with him one night when it was Johnny Polo. We ran into him and we went bar hopping with Johnny Polo. Um, Raven's great. I mean, great mind. Wasn't the easiest guy to wrestle. I remember I wrestled him one time. Just he has a certain way he wants to wrestle, and that's Raven's way. Um, but great mind, great guy, and always super helpful. Super helpful. Always gave great advice.
Can you tell us anything about top old school independent wrestling talent of the Northeast, like Boogie Woogie Brown and the Cheetah Master, the Viper, and the Inferno Kid?
The Viper, I never wrestled. Boogie Woogie Brown and Cheetah Master are two names most people don't know, and they should. Uh, they were Delaware originals, ECWA, and I realized if I was going to be a heel there, the only way to get my boos louder would be to wrestle them because they were so over. It was they both had charisma coming out of their butts. They were just great. They got like pro wrestling. Like it's not about the moves. It's not about um it's not about the action. It's about getting a reaction, and they certainly did that. Inferno Kid, Danny was a great friend of mine for many years. Great wrestler, underrated wrestler. Should have done a lot more. Just never got the. He was part of developmental before it was on television. So well, it was on television, but like local OVW TV in Louisville, but it wasn't like on the world. So right now, if if you get an NXT contract and you're there for 2 years, well, you're getting 2 years of TV, so the whole world's going to know you when you're done. But not when when Danny was in developmental, no one knew. It was like 3 years he was gone, and no one here in the East Coast even knew it. But he was wrestling, for OVW. But you don't get to see that, so uh, Danny was a missed opportunity. He should have been in the business 20 years earlier. He would have been a good territory wrestler. But Danny was very good, very good, very very good.
How did you feel about Devin Storm getting national television exposure in WCW as a singles wrestler due to all the industry buzz before you teamed with him on TV?
Um, when he first got it, I was always like, well, why aren't I getting it? When he first went up there, when it was blonde haired Devin Storm, I was always like, I love the guy, my partner, he's one of my best friends, but why is he getting it and I'm not? And then you fast forward to when he was Crowbar, and I was like, oh, I totally get why he got it, and I didn't, because he put the work in to get it more than I did, and he put the time in, and he was willing to move his whole life down to the power plant and live there with no guarantees. Like he was willing to do whatever it took to be a pro wrestler, and I didn't do that. So when people in life make it somewhere that you haven't, figure out how they got there because they did something better than you did. So I totally understood when he became Crowbar. I'm like, yeah, this is on me. Like I didn't quit my job and I didn't move my life and I didn't knock on doors and kick them in. I thought they'd come to me. So like when guys like Crowbar wouldn't be denied, like Steve Carino wouldn't be denied. The Hardy Boys. We all started at same areas, same indies, same everything, same opportunities. They wouldn't be denied. They were going to be pro wrestlers, and they were very successful at it. And for us who didn't make it, you can blame everyone you want to blame, but you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, did you do everything to get where you wanted to go, or did you say you wanted to get there? Like, hey, I'm in the magazines this month. They know who I am. They're not going to come looking for me. You got to knock on the door. So, anyone that made it more than I did, then they worked harder.
And how frequently did you get to cross paths with and even wrestle ECW original and WCW groundbreaker Too Cold Scorpio prior to maybe his run as Flash Funk in the WWF?
I only wrestled him uh, when he was Flash Funk and on, not before. Uh, yeah, I wrestled him probably 4 or 5 times. Experience with him, he's a funny guy. We've been out a few times, and he's a lot of fun. And as far as working with him, it was hit or miss. Like, we've had some good ones, we've had some stinkers, and I don't know whose fault it was, but we didn't click as much as I thought we were going to. But yeah, I mean, Too Cold's Too Cold. He's a legend. He's an innovator. He's Too Cold. He's great.
Uh, Bill DeMott had received his break in WCW as Hugh Morris or Humorous after a stellar run on the independent wrestling circuit in the Northeast as Crash the Terminator. Can you talk about knowing him and your appreciation of his work and respect for him as a human being?
Yeah, earlier I said, you'll never hear me say a bad word about Steve Kern because he was my first match. He was so good to me. You'll never hear me say a bad word at all about Bill DeMott. Bill DeMott is a gentleman. Bill DeMott is a coach. Bill DeMott is a leader. Bill DeMott is a teacher. Um, when I'd ask him to watch my match, he wouldn't, oh, it was great. He would tell me what to work on because that's what a coach does. Um, Bill DeMott did nothing that a high school coach in the 90s or anyone like that wouldn't have done. Like that's Bill DeMott. And I wasn't there when he got some of his negative criticisms. I don't know what happened, but I'm just telling you my experiences. Bill DeMott would tell me what sucked. He would tell me what was good. and he was always open. His door was always open to me. His mind was always open to me. He's a wonderful person. He's a wonderful family man. I remember when I was doing TV for WCW, I had these crappy boots. I was 23 years old, making no money. I had these crappy boots, and Bill said, "Are you going to be at TV on Tuesday?" I said, "Yeah, I think I will be." He goes, "Okay, great." And he came, and he had these black, brand new, high leather boots. And this was back before you do things just so you could post a picture of it on Facebook. You did it when you cared about people. And Bill said, "These are for you. I don't want anything for them." He goes, I don't need them. Keep them." That's Bill DeMott. Bill DeMott's a great guy. Love the man to death. I'd do anything for
Are you still in touch with Bill DeMott as far as what he's up to as of late?
him. Well, he runs a charity. His daughter was killed by a drunk driver. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but he runs a charity for his daughter and in her name, and that's how he focuses all his energy and time now to teach the teach lessons of the ramifications of driving while drunk, and to help families out and help people out, and to just drunk driving awareness. So that's what Bill DeMott's doing with himself now. And again, I love the guy to death.
Is he still training, or is he still training up and coming wrestlers? Because I remember at one
No,
time, I remember he did a seminar, and I believe it was on another YouTube channel. I don't recall whose, but I think it's somebody I wouldn't say I know quite well, but he's quite famous here on YouTube. At one time, he said I think he was running a wrestling school somewhere in the Northeast, if I'm not mistaken, or no?
no, he lives in Florida. I'm not saying you
Oh,
can't book him
Florida.
to. I'm not saying you can't book him to run a seminar, but as far as is he training pro wrestlers right now? No, that's not his job, and that's not what he's doing now.
Um, did you get the sensation by around 1995 or 96 that one of the two major American promotions, or even Mexico or Japan, was going to make you an offer to be a contract player?
I thought WCW was going to, and when we were doing TV for WCW, we were getting booked all the time. And then Paul Orndorff tried to book myself and Crowbar for that like 30-day stretch in Disney, and I was in college, and I couldn't do it. And I told Paul, I said, "Hey, can I make 10 of the dates and not all?" He's like, "Nope." He's like, "It's all or nothing." I said, "Nothing. Can't do it. I want to get my degree." And Crowbar's a physical therapist. He runs a very um, successful physical therapy practice. So, you know, we're both, now that we're all older and you need something else to make a living at, I think we made the right decisions.
Before he was a part of Public Enemy, Ted Petty also was a favorite of the wrestling magazines for his work as masked Northeast independent wrestler, the Cheetah Kid, in the latter half of the 1980s. You had a good relationship with Petty and Mike Johnny Grunge Durham, aside from you and Devin Storm working with them in WCW.
Oh yeah, we wrestled them in WCW, and then we wrestled them on the Indies when they were in WCW. So we are kind of like, we wrestled them, and then a couple weeks later, we wrestled them again. We went out with them. Um, First of all, Ted Petty was such an innovator. He was like the indie guy when I was a kid, because there wasn't a lot of indie shows. But when I did go to them in New Jersey, and the Cheetah Kid was on there, oh, just amazing, amazing. And getting to wrestle him and get to know him before he passed away was even more amazing. Great person, Teddy. Again, a great teacher, a great coach, um, great person, Ted Petty. Johnny Grunge, love Johnny Grunge, but he's a he's a crazy man. I'll tell a funny Johnny Grunge story. So it's it's the night before our first, my first WCW TV. Crowbar was there before. Um, and we meet up. We're meeting up with Bill DeMott, because Crowbar and him are from the same town, so they knew each other really well. That was my in with Bill DeMott to start with. Um, So we go somewhere, and Johnny Grunge comes out, and he's like, "Let's get a cab. Let's get a cab." So we got a cab. We're going bar hopping. We're meeting up with Teddy and Glacier and Bill DeMott. And we're me and Chris Crowbar. We're like as straight laced, never seen a drug, hardly drink. Like I've never seen a hardcore drug. Still to this day, that's not my thing. But back then, so we're in the cab, and Johnny Grunge goes to the cab driver. "Hey, man, where's the hood at?" And we're like, "What?" He's like, "I'm sorry, sir. What?" He goes, "Where's the hood at? You gotta take me to the hood." He's like, "The hood, sir?" He's like, "You know what I'm talking about." He goes, "I need to get some rock." And the driver's like, uh, I can probably find you some weed, sir." He's like, "Weed?" He goes, I get drug tested." He goes, "That'll stay in your system for 30 days. He goes, "I need the rock." He goes, I ain't no cop." This is word for word what he said. If you ever talk to Crowbar, ask him. "I ain't no cop. I'm Johnny Grunge. Lottie Dottie likes to potty. I ain't no cop. Come on, take me to the hood." And me and Crowbar were like, "We're going to die tonight. Like, we're going to die in the hood before our first WCW TV." And luckily the cab driver never took us to the hood. But yeah, that's my Johnny Grunge story.
I've never heard that one before. I've never heard
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah. Take me to the hood. I need some rock. Yeah.
Tell us about the hood.
No, we never went. Yeah,
Tell
no,
us
we didn't.
about being. Sorry, go
What's that?
ahead.
But
No, I
he
was
never took.
about to ask you.
Oh, go ahead.
He never took you.
No,
Never took you to
no,
the hood.
nope. Never took us to the hood. He goes, "You just gotta drop me off in the corner. Come back in 5 minutes." And the guy's like, "Nah, I'm sorry, that's not my. I'm not doing that." And me and Crowbar were just crapping in our pants, thinking we're gonna die.
Tell us about being around the iconic, in some circles, late Northeast wrestling impresario, talent and personality, the Boston bad boy, Tony Rumble.
Tony was the reason that we got to WCW because he used to book Kevin Sullivan. I used to book Bill DeMott too. Tony would bring us up for the weekend, me and Crowbar. He loved us and we loved him. Just he's an old school like wrestling promoter, like just like got the rap, the talk, got the he's just he was supposed to be in wrestling. If you ever had to do a run-in on Tony, he would take that. He used to wear this. What do you call it for baseball? Not a baseball hat, but like when you're hitting. I'm talking like the hard helmet for baseball.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like, if you go up to hit. You know what I mean? He would wear
Mhm.
one of those with the Boston logo, and man, he would kill you with it. Like he'd whack. Like if you did a run-in, he'd whack you with the helmet. And one time, me and Crowbar said, "We're gonna get that helmet and we're gonna beat the crap out of him tonight." In a fun way. And we slid in. He held on to that helmet like it was his firstborn. He would not let it go because he knew we were gonna whack him back with it. But love Tony Rumble. Love him. Love him. I really do owe a lot to Tony Rumble. Very good to me.
Did you immediately notice the difference in the locker room atmospheres between WCW later in the 1990s and the mid 1990s WWF, or were they very similar?
No, they're very different. They're very different. WCW was just laid back. You all got catering. You all hung out in the same room. Like I said earlier, WWF was more of a hierarchy. Like, oh, there's so and so. I mean, sure, in WCW, Hogan got his own locker room, but he would still walk around and talk to you. But the WWF guys, it just seemed like job guys here, top guys here. WCW was just a room full of wrestlers. I was more laid back. I enjoyed it more.
As opposed to being in the WWF locker room?
Yeah, well, you know what? WWF was great because I wrestled for them a lot more, probably 4 times I did for WCW. But yeah, I enjoyed WCW just because, like I said, it was just more like everyone just talked to one another. Everyone hung out. WWF, everyone seemed like they were on edge. Like, am I doing the right thing? I'll give you an example. I'm not gonna say the guy's name, but I used to do, TV, and then I do the indies. And there's a WWF guy on the indies. We hung out that weekend. We shared a room that weekend. We did, we hung out. We had dinner the whole weekend on the indies. Next week we're at TV, and I come from behind him. I slap him on the back. Hey, man. He goes, "What's up?" Like they were just different people when they were in that locker room. It was a Shark Tank. So yeah, people were different when they were in that WWF locker room.
Uh, Besides Public Enemy, you mostly worked with Hall and Nash, High Voltage, and the expensively gimmicked Ray Glacier Lloyd while in WCW. Can you talk about those matches and those experiences?
High Voltage, meh. It was a 4-minute TV match. Nice guys. Was nothing to. But I wrestled for WCW during a time where I should have had some great matches. I really should have. They had Chris Jericho. They had Chris Benoit. They had Eddie Guerrero. They had Dean Malenko. They had Billy Kidman, who I've wrestled probably 40 times in my life, but never for WCW. And I just had no one really to work with. Like they just get. I had to wrestle Ice Train, which is just an absolute nightmare. I wrestled the Renegade. I had to.
Oh, all right, looks like we've lost Mike. Let's hope we can get him back. All right, everybody. So it looks like we seem to have lost Mike. I know that we might have been having a couple of technical difficulties in between, but let's hope we can get him back. We were just about finishing up anyhow, and thank you as always for tuning into all of these interviews that I do. And if you do like what you see, please be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you get notified every single time that we upload some new content. And let's hope that we can get Mike back, and let's hope that we can wrap up this interview. Uh, Mike, if you can hear me, I'm going to resend you that invite. Just a minute. Just going to resend it to you. Hope you get it. Hold on. All right.
I am so sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. I was just buying some time.
Good.
I figured we had some technical issues, and
Awesome.
all's good. We're back together.
Renegade, not a good wrestler. Who else? Hall and Nash got to wrestle them. They're top guys, but you're getting squashed. Glacier was great. Glacier took a bump for me, and that's when he was like going up there. He was getting the big push, and he asked me a lot of my opinion too on the match. Glacier, good dude, great guy. Wrestled Joe Gomez a few times. Great guy. Oh, Joe Gomez has to be the nicest person I ever met in my life. Great guy. Who else was there? Public Enemy. We talked about them. Yeah, I mean WCW matches just more nothing special.
And I had uh, a couple other questions before we wrap things up. One of my last questions, or one of my next to last questions that I had, but certainly not least, is did you feel excitement or hope that the WWF was going to take its new light heavyweight division seriously to compete with the cruiserweight division's success in WCW when they asked you to return and be a part of it?
I did. Um, I never thought it was going to be much, but I thought it'd be an opportunity at least just get booked. Like I just always wanted to get booked. I just wanted to be there, and then you realize, okay, well, who do they have for the light heavyweights? They got Scott Putski, they got Brian Christopher, they got Scott Taylor. It wasn't Scotty Too Hottie, They had Scott Taylor. They had me. They had Taka before Taka got over, and they had the great Sasaki, or is that how you pronounce his name? But they had him. Um, yeah, it wasn't very good. They had Devin Storm. It was, and you know what? I always said this, that the WCW, if you were the WCW Cruiserweight Champion, uh, you got to be on Nitro, and you had to be on pay-per-views, and you had to be a focal point of the show. WWF light heavyweight guys were just there to put the bigger guys over. Like Taka had the belt for like a year. Who did he defend it against? Nobody. Nobody. He would put Jeff Jarrett over on Sunday Night Heat. It sucked. It sucked. No, nothing great came of that for me anyway. I mean, again, I got TV time and I got booked, but yeah, no, it was nothing special.
And what led you to get out of wrestling and pursue other life opportunities?
Well, I like wrestling was never a way I made a living. It never was. I mean, there was a time where I'd wrestle many, many times in a month, but it was mostly when I was in college or just graduated college before I had a career. But I always had a career and just did this on the weekends. You get to a point where, okay, if you're 25 and you're chasing a dream and your body feels great and you're having fun, as opposed to when you're 35 and your body feels terrible and you're making crap money and you got kids and you're like, well, I could be spending the weekend with my son, or I could be, driving an hour and a half to wrestle some green guy who's going to drop me on my head possibly for $50. So, and I feel like crap and I'm going to be sore till Wednesday. It's just, you just kind of, for me anyway, I was like, all right, I'm just not having fun anymore. It just wasn't. It's like when I watch. Well, I don't watch these days, but when I did try and watch these days, it's just not the wrestling I fell in love with. So it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun for me anymore. And that's the thing. If you're not making money, but you're having fun, like if your goal is to wrestle on the indies and be a weekend warrior, and you're having a great time, do it. Do it. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. Like I dreamed of being a baseball player. I didn't make it to the majors, but instead I joined a weekend softball league so I could play baseball. If that's what the indies is for you, do it. Have fun. Be safe. But when you're not making money and you're not having fun and it really starts hurting, it's time to give it up. Like I'd pull into a show. Me and Bundy pulled up to a show one time, and we said, I would rather be anywhere else but walking into this show. And I'm like, and wrestling was my life. And wrestling was, I never loved any other sport. I never loved movies or theater or skiing or, you know what I mean? The only love I ever had my entire life was wrestling. And when I started hating it, I was like, I gotta stop. I just gotta stop.
What is what is the biggest problem with today's current product, in your opinion?
I don't know if there's any problem. Like, here's the thing. Everyone's always like, oh, this is what's wrong with wrestling. Or if I was in charge, this is what I would do. Or if I was a writer, I would take it in this direction. Well, you're not. If you go to a movie and you pay for Star Wars to see Star Wars, and you say, "Oh man, Darth Vader should have won at the end," well, he didn't. That wasn't the movie. So if you're going to watch a wrestling match and say, "Oh," like when uh, Roman beat Cody a couple years ago, and everyone lost their mind, that's the ride they're taking you on. That whether you agree with it or not, that's the ride. That's their movie. They're writing their movie. So you could think it's going to go one way. Well, just sit down, relax, and enjoy the ride and see where it goes, because that's the ride they're taking on. I mean, the only thing I can see what's wrong with wrestling these days, the reason why I don't watch, is because everyone's 170 pounds. No one sells. There's no psychology. Um, it's so unbelievable to watch. Like, why am I watching 170-pound guys literally drop each other on their head over, drop you on your head, and then a second later, you're on the offense? And that's what I dislike about wrestling. But I can't say that's what's wrong with wrestling, because if they're all still making a living and the business is still going on, it's just evolved. But unfortunately, it's evolved for something that I don't like. But I don't guarantee this, but I, I'd strongly suggest that in 30 years from now, the kids who are diehard wrestling fans, in 30 years from now are to say, this isn't my wrestling, whatever it becomes then. It's just, it's just going to keep evolving. And when it's not what you grew up on, because you always romanticize things when you were a kid, you look back and you're like, man, Ron Bass versus Junkyard Dog, those matches were the greatest. And you watch it and you're like, wow, this is boring. But when you're, when you're a kid, that's your wrestling. It's always going to mean more to you. So the business is nothing wrong with it. It's just evolved, and it's passed me by. So maybe I'm the problem and not pro wrestling, because it's still doing pretty well.
In closing, is there anything that you'd like to say to the fans out there that you never got a chance to say?
I don't think there's too many of my fans, because a lot of people don't know who I am. To be honest with you, they know the name. Even though, like I said, I don't like wrestling, I still support it. Like, I still support pro wrestling. I still love talking about wrestling, like doing this tonight with you. I love talking wrestling. If you want to check me out, you can go to my YouTube channel, Wrestling Then and Now. I've had 200 pretty impressive guests on there, Hall of Famers, world champions. You can check me out on Facebook, Mike Maraldo. You can check me out on Facebook, Wrestling Then and Now, TikTok, Wrestling Then and Now, Instagram, Wrestling Then and Now. I still have the old stuff. Like tonight, if my wife and kids go to bed, I'm going on YouTube and I'm watching Primetime Wrestling, watching Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan go back and forth, and watching those matches, and the Hart Foundation and the Bulldogs and Ricky Steamboat, and guys like that I grew up loving. But just support wrestling, and stop taking it so seriously. It's just pro wrestling. It's just pro wrestling. Enjoy the ride. Stop thinking you know everything. Stop thinking you're a booker, and just enjoy it. Just let them take you where they're going to take you.
On that note, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to talk to the likes of me, some poor schmuck from Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Well, you're from Canada. I never would have
yes,
done this if I knew. I never would have done this if I knew that. No, I'm just kidding. How far are you from Rene Dupree?
A ways away, because he lives in New Brunswick, and I'm here in Montreal, Quebec, and last I checked, he lives in New Brunswick.
Okay, love Rene.
Because I remember interviewing him on my channel with along with his tag team partners, Sylvain Grenier. And Sylvain's from around here. He grew up in not Laval, but Terrebonne, Quebec, which is a suburb. And now he currently lives in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. But yep. Rene still lives in Canada. He's in New Brunswick, and I always watch Café de Rene. That's for sure.
Oh yeah,
it's a treat. It's a treat.
It's friends. It's just like a bunch of Jason and Paul London comes on, and Amir is now part of it. Like, we're all just good time. Good time. That's what I love about wrestling. The friendships. I didn't make any money, but you know what? I made a lot of friends. I made a lot of friends that I still have to this day. So it's a good thing.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. We can we'll most definitely do this some other time. And to each and every one of you out there, thank you as always for tuning in. Be sure to check out this episode on our YouTube channel, Freeform Friday. And may I remind you, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get advised every single time some new content is going to be headed your way. And March 28th, it's right around the corner, I will be interviewing none other than Jake the Snake Roberts, as well as Cheryl. And there will be an event coming up, a meet and greet and a Q&A session. For further information in regards to said event, I invite you to go over to collectandconnect.ca for further information. If you want to purchase tickets to the VIP event, as well as specialty items to be signed by both Jake and Cheryl. And one of the items is replica tights of Cheryl Roberts that were worn to emanate the tights or emulate the tights that were worn by Ravishing Rick Rude in 1988 when they had their historical program together.
Wow. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And also be sure to check out GPW's event coming May 30th. I know that when you interviewed Jacques Rougeau, he brought up this event, and it's Legends Mania. So you can go to gpwlegendsmania.ca, May 30th, 2026. So many legends are going to be there. Jacques Rougeau will be there. Dynamite Kid's daughter, Bronwyn Billington, will be there. She had a pretty interesting interview with Jacques Rougeau, which you should also check out. Won't go into further details. I invite you to go and check it out yourselves. And among other guests, Coco Beware will be there. You were there?
I was there when they met.
You were there
when Jacques.
Oh, you were.
Yeah, I was at that event. That's my buddy Tommy. He runs 80s Con. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, and for further information, gpwlegendsmania.ca, May 30th, Gatineau, Quebec. And Harry Smith, the son of the late, great British Bulldog, Davy Boy Smith, will be there as well. And also Harry's mother, Diana Hart Smith, will also be in attendance. And many other legends, such as Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jerry the King Lawler, Jacqueline. The list goes on and on.
Sean Mooney.
So gpwlegendsmania.ca is your next destination. Cool. So I've gone on and on, but Mike, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us. And I'll be uploading the interview onto our channel. And if we could do the same, so that we can collaborate and maybe do some future collaborations together, that would be awesome. Thank you so much, brother, and I wish you a great rest of the day.
You too. Thank you, bud.